Thank you. And this sort of thing is at the heart of what Ipsos is about, which is really about discussing openly with the joy of free speech that we have in the West, not in all the 90 countries we operate in, what's going on, and using expert understanding of public opinion, which we see as a French company with a British CEO. We are fully international. We are American in America. We are Brazilian in Brazil, we're French in France, we're Italian in Italy, etc. We are in 90 markets, 19,500 people. And just a few, as I am an opinion pollster, and we are now the only global research company run by a social scientist, which is what I could sort of on a good day call myself. On a bad day, God knows what I'd call myself. But I think on inflation, it's, as you will know if you're avid Ipsos followers, it's replaced COVID-19 as the biggest concern in the world. The work that we do for the central banks has shown, and indeed the work that we're, I think, publishing tomorrow shows that wage price spirals, which those of you who are old enough to remember the 1970s, and there aren't that many of you in here, but a few, don't seem to be happening. People are much more likely to say they'd move to a new employer than just go and ask for a pay rise, and it isn't really changing. The central bankers, when I presented this to them in Basel, to Jerome Powell and Christine Lagarde and all these people, of course, were delighted at this, and the fact that the central bankers themselves and interest rates are not currently being blamed for the situation. Most people blame the global economy or the war in Ukraine. But I think the challenge we face as we go, and we've just heard that the American economy is shrinking, is that the consumer expectations are behind where the reality is. And when you ask them what they think is going to happen next year, they have been consistently behind what has actually happened. So we're in this period where we are psychologically adjusting from a very long period of low inflation, many decision makers just not used to operating in an environment with double-digit inflation. And we don't quite know what's going to happen next. So events like today, and I'm sure the expert panel will tell us all the answers, but I think the fundamental challenge to me is one that in my own work, I think our Western societies, American society, European societies in particular, and the Latin Americans face, which is the loss of the future. And every time you think we've just got through one crisis, a new one emerges. But the challenge is that at the beginning of this century, only about 1 person in 10 in most Western countries expected their children to end up poorer than them. Before the pandemic, it had risen in the country I know best, Britain, to 45%, very similar in France, the Gilets jaunes, etc. In large parts of America, similarly, angry and looking for somebody to blame. And the answer may be globalization, but either way, for policymakers, how we get through this, deal with, are you going to be, are you Hayekian or are you Keynesian in terms of your response? The panel will tell us, and Mallory will tell us in a minute. But certainly, I think the challenge is that all the evidence is that consumers, although they realize they're likely to be poorer, they may not realize quite how much poorer. And that is our central challenge for me. And I'm looking forward to answers from our expert panel on what will happen next. I will shut up, but on behalf of Ipsos, thank you so much for coming this evening.